serious, what is something you feel is unacceptable that is still being done today? Putting sensationalism as a priority in journalism, monsieur. I read this thing about paying tens of thousands of dollars for a degree in journalism only to end up reporting about celeb haircuts and Kardashians' crop tops, and it just, well, in certain parts of educated India, the rapist, if caught, is given an ultimatum that no charges will be pressed against him if he agrees to marry the girl victim. The thought process behind this is the girl is a rape victim, so will be difficult to find a groom for her. Best way to save her honor is if the same man, i.e. the rapist, marries her. I know this is beyond fucked up, but for some sections of the society, even today, this is considered wise and just towards the girl. No one ever asks or thinks about what the girl will have to endure being married to the person who raped her. Shame. That is absolutely atrocious. India needs to get their shit together when it comes to women's and children's rights. It's deplorable. Paparazzi. Why do they even exist in the first place? I am no celebrity, but they should be arrested for interfering in other fellow humans' life. So much this. These dickheads then also have the sheer fucking hubris to defend their bullshittery with freedom of the press, and the public deserves to know both things, which are meant for completely different things. If I was the absolutistic ruler of a country, I'd make paparazzi part of the ban on stalking people listening to their music on their cell phones at full volume in public. People that do that on public transport can get fucked. They always have the worst taste in music too. The normalization of male rape in the prison system to the point where it's not just punchlines to jokes, but used as threats by the police. I think prison rape jokes bother me more than almost any other off-color jokes, because for other taboo topics, most people would agree they're deplorable, even if they're laughing at the jokes. With prison rape, people will laugh at the jokes and then basically agree with it in normal conversation. It's so fucked up and wrong. Every time I hear a "don't drop the soap" joke in a TV show, all I can think of is poor Damien Eccles at the torture he went through as an innocent man for so many years, not letting women get their tubes tied. Seriously, it is so hard to find a doc that will do it unless you have more than 2 kids, if one of them is a boy, and if not, then it's 3. You are in a heterosexual relationship. You are over 35, or you had a hard labor giving birth to a child already. I am in the US, but I have heard it being difficult in a few other countries before as well. It is absolutely ridiculous. If we don't want kids, let us get tied. If we change our minds, there are thousands of kids available for adoption, or there are several other ways. And having doctors try to hand-wave away my wife's endo for fucking years, like, oh, pain is just part of being a woman, or abruptly changing the only BC that gives her relief, because they're pretty much the same drug. Fuck that noise. Women's healthcare in the US is a fucking shit show. And I'm not even going to start on the death rates while giving birth. I say this to women everywhere. Whenever you tell a doctor about a problem you're having and request a test, and it's usually he, gives you the, well, actually, runaround, ask him to record in your chart that he refused to perform the test and why, to provide you a physical copy. My wife does this all the time. They all change their tune. Littering. Just why. Every so often I end up littering by accident. I might be opening my trunk to put away groceries and the wind sweeps up and blows away the receipt. A second later it's blown 20 feet and is accelerating away from me. And I'm not about to abandon my kids in the car to run across a busy parking lot chasing a small piece of paper. That said, I take my dogs on long walks by a creek fairly regularly, and sometimes take a trash bag to pick up along the trail. If the only cause of littering were the wind blowing things out of control, most of the things I pick up never would have been there. Fathers are treated as second-class parents. You just have to look at how fathers are portrayed in advertising and many TV shows. Generally, they're portrayed as bumbling idiots who need their wife to run the show for them. Monsieur. Willful ignorance. We have gateways all around us that connect us to the entirety of human knowledge, but people still believe the earth is flat and vaccines cause autism. Monsieur. Edit. A lot of people are chalking it up to the internet being an echo chamber and only reciprocating what you want to hear. While that is totally true, it's also where my anger starts. If you wanted to believe something and defend that belief, you have to take the time to actively search for opposing claims and verify their credibility. I myself looked into the anti-vaccine movement. Their evidence basically amounted to tabloid articles with laughable credibility, and one doctor who has been fired. The point was, I can now confidently state my opinion because I've made an effort to see another point of view and made an educated decision. We have the greatest source of information ever, and people still choose to be ignorant and dismiss facts and logic as hyperboles and opinions. 5G causes coronavirus is the new one. Like, at least the vaccines cause autism. One had a debunked paper done which proved the theory. The 5G causing coronavirus conspiracy theory is completely baseless. Abuse of men in relationships is normalized, laughed at, and even celebrated in some circles. Look no further than the henpecked husband trope. Everyone is supposed to laugh at this poor man getting no say in anything that he does. If the shoe was on the other foot and it was a man henpecking his wife and her needing his permission to do anything, that would definitely be considered a controlling relationship. Especially the woman slapping the man. It is shown as heroic on the woman's part to express herself and stand up for herself when she slaps a man. It's even shown in movies as comic when a woman physically beats a man. And even then, the man only defends himself and must not attack, because then it would be physical assault. And the worst part is, I have myself found those scenes funny in the past. Having a friendly trading relationship with the West, or being allowed to join the UN, a human rights organization, while simultaneously killing gays for simply existing, e.g. Afghanistan, Brunei, Iran, Mauritania, Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, Sudan, United Arab Emirates, and Yemen. Half of these countries have been on the UN Human Rights Council. And people wonder why America and Israel call it bullshit. Yelling at your employees because your boss is yelling at you. I don't care who's yelling at you. You have to respect your employees. You can let them know they made a mistake or something is urgent without yelling. Mental abuse is normal now. Most parents treat children like shit. Yet if someone chooses friends over parents, they're seen as selfish. Why is someone seen as a bad person if they choose someone they are closer to over someone who gave birth to them? A lot of parents treat children like property, and it needs to end. Abuse, mental or physical, it is still abuse. Most people don't realize mental health is a thing and maybe even more important than physical health. A friend of mine, who is very fond of making a debate out of everything, constantly puts people in a bad mood with misunderstanding things on purpose to create a debate. He is very surprised that some people don't like his way. He is basically uncomfortable for your mind, but he tries to be a good person. Our mind is just really fragile, like our body. The fact that we are still using plastic when there are alternatives. For example, wrappings on magazines can be made out of potato starch and packaging peanuts can be too. Water bottles don't need to be plastic. Breeding of pugs and other breeds with extremely high rates of medical issues. Shit should be considered animal abuse. Inequality in the school system. Monsieur, richer neighborhoods shouldn't be afforded a better education and resources than poor neighborhoods. Lot of smart kids don't get the resources they deserve, and kids who excel differently aren't taught important skills for developing their own unique craft. Yup. School funding shouldn't be based off of property tax. The fact that in the US we have people on all parts of the political spectrum who are questioning the value of free speech. Also, people who, deliberately or otherwise, misconstrue the concept of free speech to mean I get to say whatever I want with no consequences and no challenges to my beliefs. I've seen this on the right a lot, but certainly the left has its free speech for me and not for the types as well. News media not being held accountable for the hate they stir up. Even worse, media not being held accountable for lying. If a news outlet was wrong about something, they should be required to run a segment correcting themselves. Racist monsieur, like, come on, stop that shit. It's old. Grow a pair and be acceptable. Racism comes from educating your child. It's really difficult to fully negate this, as it can form from basically anything. For example, when I was little, my parents tried to tell me that Italians are troublemakers to get me to stop hanging out with a buddy who was half Italian, and I had a slight injury from when we hung out once. This was their way of making their specific issue non-specific, so I would bow down under a more universal fact rather than a personal opinion from my parents, which I could theoretically protest against. Unfortunately for them, they constantly pulled questionable facts like this, so at this point I was already basically questioning everything they said. Maybe someone smarter than me can counter this argument, but I have always had this mindset. We give racism so much fucking power over us. Specifically slurs. Immediately when children are born, we teach them that the N-word is the most vile, disgusting word you can say, and you can never say it, especially towards black people. Okay, kids are little shits though, so they will use it because they know the word has power. If we taught kids, yeah, it was a word used by people a long time ago, by people who used to own other people, but everyone decided owning people was wrong because people aren't property, so the word isn't used anymore. Wouldn't this solve the problem? I feel like we give certain words so much power that even saying them is completely taboo, and when someone does say it, immediately it changes everyone's mood. Why do we allow it to have so much power over us? 1. Most people don't teach their kids that. 2. That word wasn't such a taboo 30 years ago, and racism was worse then. I think people focus too much on the words we say because it's easier than fixing the real problems of institutional racism, monsieur. Infant circumcision, aka normalized genital mutilation. Imagine chopping off any other part of your perfectly healthy baby. People would rightly think you're insane. Well, I thought my kid's feet would look better without his little toes. My dad had mine chopped off too, so we're still working on getting it outlawed in Denmark. None of our politicians want to touch it. Damn cowards. Religious freedom should not win over the well-being of a child. Letting China do whatever the they want. Same with the US and Russia. Who's gonna stop them? They've got the rest of the world by the financial balls. You don't need the financial qualifier in there. They have the world by all of the balls, as long as Monsieur A.D. mutually assured destruction is a realistic possibility. Teaching men that emotion is a sign of weakness and makes them less of a man. This shit really needs to stop. It needs to stop at the grade school level, and we need to teach boys that it's okay to cry, moan, and express discontent. Maybe that would lead to men who are more in touch with their feelings and less criminals for it. Parents smoking around their children. Smoking around anyone's children, as a matter of fact. But as parents, you're supposed to be better. Ex-Muslims in the West are still persecuted by Islamic communities, and very little is being done to combat it or help the victims. They're largely forgotten, and help provided to them is minimal. Well, of course, you would get cries of racism if you went against that ideology, religion. This tactic has been circulated in the last 5 years, and the most shameful thing is, it works. Tagging an entire group with the blame that a few of that group have done. There are shitty people all over the world, but there are good people too. Don't blame the good people for the things the bad people do. Yeah, my belief is that 98% of people are good. kind folks. That last 2% are the dickheads we see on the news and get stupid stereotypes from Monsieur Dickheads. Come in all flavors and all of them can get fucked. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.